So I owned a consulting business where we did business process analysis and design for almost 20 years. And it was focused on humans. So that it was a very human-centric way of looking at business processes. So rather than what technology or what software do we need to get things done, it was about, do people understand why they're here? Do they understand their accountabilities? Do they understand what kind of skills they need? So that's was my entree into Talent Snapshot. And we started this probably 10 or 11 years ago. We started out with paper and pencil and sort of tested the whole idea. We evolved from that to Word documents and Excel, which was very painful, let me just say that. And then we are now on our third iteration of the software. And we just keep adding new functionality to it and new features to it as we go along, primarily from input from our customers. So we listen to what they have to say and like, oh, well, let's see if we can make that work with the software. Today, we're going to talk about why employee engagement is important. I'm interested to hear if anyone here in your company or your organization is doing anything around employee engagement. I'm going to give you 7 things to remember, so 7 tips on what to think about as you segue into employee engagement in your organization. And then some ideas on how to get started with all of this. As leaders of an organization, it's really important that you take the helm or take the reins and own employee engagement and do something about it. So it's not enough just to say, oh, we have an employee engagement process. You have to start from the top and it has to go down through the organization. You can't expect it to be pushed up from the lower levels. Leadership has to take a huge role in this. Since I put this up there, for those that might be interested, if you'd like to go back and learn more, there are a couple of really good resources online. So one is a guy by the name of Josh Bersin, Bersin. He's done a lot of work around performance management systems, and he's done a lot of work around employee engagement, white papers and lots of research. He was so good, in fact, Deloitte bought his company about 5 or 6 years ago. So now he's now part of Deloitte. Another one is Gallup, who I reference here. They have surveys and they've got data and anything like that that you are interested in. If you're interested in learning more, those are 2 really good resources for you. So simply stated, talent, or the employees, those are the people that are responsible for generating revenue, reducing expenses, retaining customers. So those are the people in your organization. They're the heart of your organization and making it work. And I truly do believe that everyone comes in to work every day with the idea that they're going to do a good job. They don't come in and say, today I'm going to do bad work and I'm going to make customers mad. Talent management, how many of you have heard that term? Have you heard that term? Okay, so it's not a talent agency. It's not, getting actors jobs. Talent management is about managing your talent from the moment they walk in the door of your organization to the moment that they leave, and all points in between. So that includes succession planning and career management and a whole host of other things, which I'll talk about here a little more in a few minutes. Employee engagement then is really the program or the processes or the pieces that you have in place to engage that talent so you get more of that productivity, more of that revenue, more customers sticking around and so forth. How many of you would have thought that employee disengagement costs this much? So $550 billion a year is what it costs organizations in the United States. So that encompasses retention, so people leaving, you have to go hire someone new, that costs a lot of money. People who are unhappy and they aren't as productive as they could be, that costs you a lot of money. So that number's kind of rolls up a number of different factors. Globally, that number is $7 trillion. That's a lot of money. $7 trillion is the cost of disengagement globally. Only 1/3 of the workforce is engaged, and executives know that it's important. So they have spent some time trying to understand what can we do about this in the whole scheme of things in our strategy as a business. Where does talent management fall? And as you can see here, 87% of companies rate retention, engagement, and culture as an important imperative, and of those, 50% say that it's urgent. So this is something that has risen to the top. And as we go through this kind of economic boom that we're in right now, it's even more important because it's hard to find people to do the jobs that we need to have done. There's a number of indicators of disengagement. So if you're seeing lower profitability, for example, or if you're seeing top employees leave, if you're receiving a lot of customer complaints, then those are probably signs that you need to do something about employee engagement. I've read a number of things recently about theft in office. There was just something about recently, I can't remember what the organization was, but it was a small business and she had stolen like $5 million over a couple of years. And they didn't even have a clue. That's the part that gets me. I think I'd recognize $5 million missing. But why did she do that? Was it just a financial position? Was she ticked off and she could get away with it? Why would someone do something like that? A few more things that I found this number kind of astounding. 3 million people in the United States quit their job every single month. So not only do we have a shortage of people to fill jobs, and I think the number is something around 6 million people or something like that, but then you have 3 million people leaving their job. Now imagine that. I worked for a small, or not a small, nonprofit agency several years ago, did some work for them. They had a 50% turnover. They had 800 employees. So every year they had to hire 400 new employees. Can you imagine that? That just blows my mind to even think about that. So I'd say they had an engagement problem. They had some kind of problem. So this is just a quick idea of what it costs to replace someone. You can count on spending 6 to 9 months of someone's salary just to find a replacement. Losing an employee can cost you anywhere from 16% to 213% depending on the position of that person's salary. A new employee can take up to 2 full years just to get up to speed on what you're doing at your organization. So there's a lot of costs associated with someone leaving. And imagine if it was a top sales performer, or imagine if it was a top executive. It would be, or even a top manager that you have working for you that's had a lot of tenure. You don't want them to leave. So what can you do to help them keep them engaged and on board? Why you would want to address engagement, cost of turnover is one. But another one is if you have happy employees, you usually see about a 12% spike in productivity, which is pretty good. Unhappy workers are about 10% less productive overall. Companies that invest in employee and support, you see a rise in about 37%. That was Google's numbers when they started addressing that. These are some other outcomes. So highly engaged companies anticipate change. They usually are more innovative than companies that do not have highly engaged employees. They usually coach and develop their people. They assess and hire the right candidates. Imagine the cost of 2 to 3 months of salary, and then you find out that you made the wrong hire, and you have to turn around and do it all over again.